But there is a body of people now who are not prepared to just take this lying down. I so thank the top table for coming here to give us courage and support. And with that, if I may, I'd very much like to hand over now to Peter Hollidge, who is another daddy of a gorgeous HPV-infected daughter. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm now going to call Jonathan Irwin a liar because I am not famous and I'm not renowned. I'm just simply an engineer that works in an industry. That's all I am. But I'm only here because of one thing, and that's because my daughter has been affected by the HPV vaccine. That's the only reason I'm here. So we'll go straight on with it. So she was injected 3 doses, it's now 2 doses for some reason. I think one of the reasons they gave for 2 doses was it produces less side effects, which is strange in a vaccination that apparently causes no side effect. She became progressively sick, and it was a day-by-day long-term thing. I'm not going to go through it because you all know it. We passed from expert to expert, as you all have done. So we have all done this merry-go-round. Then we found regret. And this is not an advert for regret. This is the truth. Everything I say is going to be true and backed up by documented evidence, because that's also part of what I do in my career. There's a group of parents that have got together because they noticed something going on. They noticed their daughters getting sick. And what they did was they started looking around for information, and they came across the PIL, and they've asked for the PIL to be given. They've not asked for the vaccination to be withdrawn. They've asked for the PIL to be given, which is our human right for informed consent. And you'll hear more about that later on. They've asked for an independent investigation. No more than that, an independent investigation into these girls and what's actually triggered, what's caused their reaction to the vaccination. They have a committee, and the committee is open to people. Anybody with a damaged daughter can join regret, go and actually vote for committee members. But look, this isn't an unreasonable request. And if I look at one of the gentlemen over here, who was assigned by the Danish Health Authority to look into this and help the girls, and compare that to what's happened in Ireland, you can see things are very strange in this country. Regret is not anti-vaccine, as far as I know. I mean, I don't know everybody in Regret, but I know a few of them. They're not a lobbying organisation. They're not a charity. They're not a shadowy organisation with secrets. They're not a coven of witches, because some of us are blokes. Okay? That is what they're not. What they are is simply that something the HSE cannot cope with. A group of parents looking for some answers. And that's what the HSE cannot cope with. So they have to try and label, through their proxies or by themselves. So the realisation happened. So we're in this merry-go-round. And because my daughter is like my daughter, she wrote down all the symptoms because she got tired of saying over and over and over again what she feels like. So she wrote down the symptoms. Oh, wrong one. It is a technology environment I work in, by the way. And that is blurred out for a reason, because we showed this list of symptoms to one journalist who then immediately tried to copy them all down. Right? So it's blurred out just in case there's somebody here taking pictures. There's a list of symptoms she wrote. And my wife came in with the PIL for the Gardasil vaccine. And she went, "Peter, look. The genius that she is." And I had to look, and I could not deny that that list and that list were remarkably similar. And in fact, I challenged one of the heads of the immunisation board to this. I said, is it unreasonable for me as a person to see that and make a connection? And he said, no, but you're wrong. And I said, okay, why am I wrong? He goes, well, it's impossible to prove a negative. So immediately, as a simple engineer, I thought, hang on. the guy's lying. So the regret helped us to get off this useless merry-go-round of people trying to say, okay, that bunch of symptoms belong to that illness, I'll treat that illness. That one belongs to that. Oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. Go to that specialist. We've all been there. We thought when we got this connection, this would be the end of our problems. We thought the HSE would help us, but we were wrong. So these are the things we were told. And as a simple engineer, these are the things I thought about it. And these are why I became more and more convinced that there is a specific problem. We were told it's a coincidence, yeah? Everybody's been told it's a coincidence. So what I did, I thought, okay, there are 4 illnesses that are suffered by a lot of these girls. They've been diagnosed, in inverted commas, with these. Let's find out. And it's a simple calculation. So I went to all the proper databases and found out what the background percentage were. You multiply them together and you come out with an answer. Those 4 illnesses, the probability of getting them at random is 1 in 50 million. Now, if I said Raynaud's disease, absent seizures, crash vitamin D, fibromyalgia, and we all stuck our hands up, whose daughter suffers from one or more or a combination of all of those? Okay, quick calculation. That's enough to satisfy that probability for 2 times the planet. Something wrong here, yeah? So, there should be only 10 or 11 girls across the whole of Europe suffering from this. They're not. They're hundreds and thousands. So we're told it's a coincidence. And we were told, have you heard this one? Right, there's a famous scientist from a long time ago. Unfortunately, he's British. But he was the best quote I could find. The law of causation, the recognition of which is the main pillar of science, is but the familiar truth that the invariability of succession is found by observation. In other words, you can't establish causation without correlation. It is the first step. How many of you guys did Leaving Cert Science? Yeah? Junior Cert Science, indeed. I did the equivalent in the UK. So what did they do? They made you do something, write down what happened next, and then, yeah, this is correlation. And so the idea that correlation is not causation is also stupid. Meanwhile, the HPRA have removed all the time data, the dates data, from their list, so nobody can establish correlation. There was an EMA study, a famous EMA study, that's always quoted. The initial study said that the connection to POTS could neither be confirmed nor denied. Yet what are they saying on the media here? They're saying the EMA said it's perfectly safe. Can anyone see that in that sentence? No? As stated before, the EMA study looked at 2 isolated incidents. And if you go back to what I said, if you look at 4 in combination, you get a probability of 1 in 50 million. Certain gentleman from the Irish Cancer Society went on radio a few months ago. He said, but yeah, fibromyalgia is so common, 7.5% of women. Oh yeah, and this one's common, that's 5% of women. And then he said another one, and that's 2%. And then he stopped himself because he suddenly realized that somebody with half a mind of mathematics was going to be going 7% times 5% times 2% and start to get to the 1 in 50 million. Again, they describe one illness at a time. In many cases, they provide no evidence. The ICS came out in one interview on Highland Radio, I think, and came out with this autoimmune illnesses of 0.2 to 0.4%. And no evidence, no backup. There's no study that says this. And the girls suffer from a cluster of symptoms. And there is a paper published by the WHO that says when you look at the cluster of symptoms, you have to do an investigation into this vaccine. How many of the people have actually referenced that in the Irish media? We're told our girl had CFS. Yeah? How many? No assessment of the girls. They just said on the radio, these experts, they got CFS. And for me, the moment of truth was in a meeting again, when a senior staffer inside the HSE was shown one of the most common symptoms of the girls in Ireland and was basically challenged in face-to-face Kiva. And she's a remarkable woman, but you don't want to go face-to-face with her. And she said, "Is that one of your symptoms of CFS?" And he said, "No." So there's your proof. It's not CFS, guys. Despite this, the HSE continued to try and force this care plan. And it's a plan that wasn't even presented to the support groups for CFS before given to us. We're told it's a local issue. Has many of you seen this map? There is, I believe, on the internet an issue too. This is not a local issue. These are all the support groups in the different continents around the world for girls who are suffering after the HPV vaccine. And I know there's more, because on the IFICA website there's a new one that has a Japanese one added, it has a Panama one added. So if even Panama has a support group for the girls, it is not a local issue. So you're not on your own. We're told we're very few. I'm looking out, that's not very few. Over 400 seriously injured girls in Ireland. HPRA says over 1,000 events, nearly 400 are unresolved in the statement. VERS is there, the asylum monitoring, video access is there. I mean, at that point, at the end of March, I looked and it was 30 per day reports. That's, worldwide, that's not big. Unless, of course, you're the father or the mother of one of the 30 girls. Then it's huge. So, this is the killer on this line, because we were told in that meeting that the majority of things do not make their way onto these databases. And we were asked by the HSE to make sure the parents report it because the doctors weren't doing. And I just saw there was an answer to a parliamentary question. How many was it? 63 have been reported by the GPs. Now, it's not unusual because it's not the GPs that administer it. But it's also not unusual because we have seen evidence that the GPs were told there is no side effect, therefore do not report it. Just some numbers. In Europe it says 20,478, but I did some addition across some other things. This is the global figures. And the European figures, that comes at something like just under 24,000. So you start wondering where the 4,000 disappears to. So you can see this. There's us. Between 19th of March and 9th of April, that figure increased by 123 in Europe. There's male and female, which I thought I'd put in because that seems to be very high. 12% seems to be very high when you consider that the vaccine isn't recommended for boys in most countries. So as a warning to parents who have boys who are thinking about this, there are the figures so far when it's not recommended for boys. We were told it's perfectly safe and there's no evidence. These arrows point towards the PIL and the package inserts. Now, I'm sorry, Mr. Harris, if you're listening, but I went to Google to find them. And that Google person took me to the Merck website where I picked up the true documentation relating to this. And there it is. At the bottom, they have this new wonderful Gardasil 9, called Gardasil 9 because it's 9 strains of vaccine instead of 4. And on that PIL, it said, the following side effects were suffered after Gardasil, and maybe suffered after Gardasil 9. Merck said the following side effects were. Not possible or anything like that. Following side effects were. And not only that, they said Gardasil 9 is much improved because after Gardasil on our tests, only 2.5% of the tested population had a severe adverse effect. 2.5%. But Gardasil 9 is so much better because it's only 2.3%. So even for 9, the much improved one, it's 2.3% is the expected serious adverse effects. Now, serious adverse effects could be anything from a raging headache right through to what's happening to our girls. But at the end of the day, who has heard anybody on the HSE side or on the media say, by the way, guys, Merck say 2.5%? Has anyone heard that? I rest my case, Your Honour. Why would Merck make untrue statements about their own product? Think about it. Isn't it weird that the people that are being most honest in this are the people that have the financial interest in the product? Right, this is now this one. Perfectly safe and no evidence, Merck PIL. Incidentally, the EU PIL states, read all of this leaflet carefully before your child is vaccinated. So the manufacturer, although it may be covering itself, said, read this first. Who here has had the opportunity to read that first? Nobody. Also states, like all vaccines and medicines, Gardasil can cause side effects, although not everybody gets them. This is a true statement. Lastly, HPRA and the Health Minister stated in a television interview that it was essential for the public to read the PIL for any medicine. Remarkable. Come on. There's a specific issue, borax. Who here is from the farming community? I have to keep my arms down in this one. Borax is a pesticide. It's used here as a fungicide to stop the live elements of the vaccine which don't exist from developing, yeah? And it is a notified substance under EU regulations. And it says anything that comes into this country has to be labelled may damage fertility and may damage the unborn child. That's European law. Gardasil contains this and does not contain these statements. And I can't, as an engineer, back these figures up properly because the sample size is too small. But from my calculations initially, there are 10 million times more early ovarian failures in the Gardasil population in Ireland than you would expect from the general population. I cannot verify that because the sample is too small. That's why it's not up there. So once a sample unfortunately gets bigger, and as long as they keep injecting this substance into people, it will get bigger, then we can start firming up on those figures. This was sent by me to Mairead McGuinness, the first Vice President of the European Parliament, who I met in Sligo and then bumped into in an airport. And it's great because they can't run in an airport. Sent her the email. Guess what's happened? Well, it's up there, isn't it? The examination at the end of this is going to be very easy. Aluminium. There are so many studies on aluminium. Aluminium is safe because it's always been used. Right? Unfortunately, in terms of Gardasil, the aluminium formulation in Gardasil is new and is unproven. But again, the indications are there. Who's doing the testing about this? The statement that it's perfectly safe. Who is doing the testing? And the answer is nobody. Because there is no financial incentive to do so. HPRA statement on primetime documentary that many of us here rue to our souls. It stated that girls with asthma are predisposed to react. How many here have got girls that had asthma before the jab? Anybody here warned? And it says on the PAL that if you have immune issues, then do not get this injection. So the HPRA is coming out and saying you're predisposed. And I remember on Facebook at the time, we were all watching this documentary, and there was a series of comments underneath this saying, "Did you hear that? Did she say what I just thought she said?" There's people rewinding on Sky and playing it again. Yes, she said it. Remarkable statement. Again, the EMA study, often quoted as definitively excluding any connection between the vaccination and two selected, actually says the connection could neither be confirmed or denied. So again, these are all indications to a simple engineer that something is fundamentally wrong. We're told that cancer is falling in Australia, yeah? Do you want to see the real figures? See the bit at the end? Gardasil's introduced then. This is from the group in Australia. They were reading a medical magazine, and the medical advances magazine was about ovarian cancer increasing. And so they had as a contrast with cervical cancer. And this at the bottom, National Cancer Control Indicators. Proper, verified information. So we can all see the massive decrease in cancer earlier on, yeah? Here, back 96, 98. Can we all remember saying, the HSE saying that Gardasil was responsible for a 75% reduction in the HPV rates in, yeah? We can all remember that? Do you know what was actually responsible? Introduction of the smear campaign. Again, when somebody lies to you, they're hiding something. So our experience initially in the media experience was interviews on News Talk, RT, local radio, TV3 documentary. Then something happened. Now, I'm going to have to be very careful here because I'm a blow-in. You can probably tell my accent isn't exactly from County Leitrim. It's from another rebellious county in another country. Ireland is a nation that considers itself first world, yeah? Just checking to verify these facts. Technologically driven. It considers itself, it may not be true in County Leitrim, but yeah? Just and balanced. Learned and humanitarian. Having a long and illustrious cultural history. Having free speech and human rights. First country to introduce same-sex marriage in law. Yeah? You're already shaking your head, so I don't really need to do this, do I? In Ireland, it is illegal to abuse or discriminate against anyone on the basis of their nationality, gender, race, religion, or sexual orientation. Correct? What about chronically sick people? So it's okay to brand sick girls as being mopey or fake news on mainstream media. We can all remember who did that. It's okay to make bulk expert diagnosis of chronically sick girls on TV and radio, despite not having examined any, and also despite not even being qualified to examine any. It's okay. It's okay to verbally attack parents on radio and TV without giving them the right to reply. It's okay to publish and disseminate inaccurate and misleading information about parents and girls. This is all okay. It's okay to get stressed parents to participate in TV and radio interviews that promise on the promise of being balanced and then abuse them. It is okay to quote science that everyone knows. It's okay to make up statistics on the fly. The mainstream media in Ireland, they continue to stifle us. They continue to block us. And then the trolls come on board and then they start ranting at us for going to the only media outlets that we have. There are those who are charged to protect us. It's okay to conduct roadshows promoting this vaccine and without telling you about the financial relationship with the manufacturer of that vaccine. Who might I be talking about? I don't know. It's okay to call the parents of chronically sick girls emotional terrorists. It's okay to tell parents of children to butt out of their medical care. It's okay to make emotive statements like 40 will die without any basis in fact. I come back to the gentleman over there who was appointed by his health service executive to treat and look after the girls. That's the Danish approach. It's okay to hide behind parliamentary privilege, as was said before, and make statements. By the way, parliamentary privilege means that he cannot be sued for anything he says. That's why he sits in the Dáil and says it and doesn't say it outside. It's okay for the health minister to ignore any questions you ask and answer everything with a bland text. Who has received that text? Okay. Name names, Health Minister, HSE and Cancer Society are partaking in behaviour that is engendered distrust and has had the effect of reducing the vaccine uptake. It's not us as whistleblowers that have done this. It is their reaction to us that have made people say, hang on. So they can't blame us for their issues. I think issues, Jonathan, is a much politer word than the one you used earlier. The trolls. Okay, who knows them? It's okay to go through Facebook pages and lift images of chronically sick girls on a good day and use them to claim fake news. It is okay for medical practitioners to state that parents should be abused for standing up for their girls. It is okay for media charities, HSE employees, and even comedians to pat each other on the back. We all know who I'm talking about, yeah? It's okay to encourage the delivery of vitriol on a Facebook page or a Twitter account. It's okay to do all of that. The trolls will no doubt have their fun after this and get their enjoyment and their satisfaction out of trolling. But they have something to remember, and this comes from my technical domain. Whatever you put on the internet stays there forever. So it's not okay to speak out with any conviction as a medical practitioner because you will be knocked back. It's not okay to speak out as a politician or a clergyman because your line management will call you in. It is not okay to ask questions in Parliament because your party leader will call you into a meeting and tell you to stop asking questions. It is not okay to try and represent other parents because you will be attacked. The positives. There are positives, guys. I'm trying to finish this on a positive note, get us all smiling and ready for the next. Regret. For me, they're essential for survival. Without them, I would not be where I am. My daughter would not be where she is. Local press and radio have been fantastic to us. I don't know if that's a general experience, but local press and radio have been brilliant for us. Local people. I have got some mad stories about being driven around the wilds of County Leitrim by individuals with extremely sketchy passes. Right, thinking that maybe 35 years ago this would have had a completely different outcome. Some local politicians are helping, with a few notable exceptions. TD's listened. One actually stood up in the Dáil recently and asked some questions and gave some statistics. I'm not sure whether he will ever be reselected. There are treatments being tried all the time, and there are some improvements. And as soon as the facts are established, those will be shared. There is growing worldwide evidence of the connection between Gardasil. Cases are being won. There is hope there. I have 2 more slides. And for obvious reasons, I'm going to say thank you for your attention now. Our daughter did not ask to be born. She did not ask to get sick. So we'll help and protect her as much as we can. We'll do everything to get her better. We'll do everything to make sure she has a future and a future life, because that's our duty as parents. But our children will not forget what's been done. They will grow up. They will not forget who has abused them. the children, the siblings will become lawyers, even politicians, those without qualifications. Journalists, nurses, they will, whatever they're able to do, they will grow up. All of them will be voters. All of them will have a voice.